Hope everybody's having a great day. We're gonna kick things off here, and of course, we have a very special guest today. We have Jennifer Bleem, who is the owner and founder, if I'm correct on the title, owner and founder of MSP Sales Revolution. And I'm very excited. Coming up in just I don't know, a couple weeks from now, we're gonna be on a panel together. Your panel. I'm gonna be on your panel, the way I should actually say it. Um, you have an awesome panel. So if anybody's going to be at IT Nation Secure, Jennifer, if you want to give a shout out about your panel that you've got coming up.
Yeah, for sure. So it is Tuesday morning at 10:30, and the concept is from tech to rainmaker. And so it is ideal for any owner that is still in the tech role, but they need to be doing sales, and maybe they haven't all the way shifted over to that role mentally. They've still got some challenges around, is sales something that's good? Can I even say I'm in sales? It's kind of embarrassing. So the panel, it was so excited by the panelists. Obviously, Dan is on there, and his sales style is very like supportive and nurturing, and I just want to serve people. And then we've got me, my sales style is a little cheeky. Like, I'm not snarky, but I'm not afraid to ask direct questions as well. And then we've got Jay Ryersey. Jay built and sold his MSP, and then built and sold a cybersecurity SaaS company that I was a part of. And now he is an executive at Sentinel One. And then we have Tony Francisco, who practically invented the internet. Like, he invented multi-factor authentication, and like he's like, so everybody that's on there is like the real deal. And we're going to talk about mindset shifts and how to become the seller, what metrics are important. We are going to have a lot of trouble. We're going to do fine fitting it into 45 minutes. However,
Yeah.
we could probably fill an entire day just from
Oh yeah.
our knowledge and walking miles and miles and miles in our shoes. So it's going to be
Abs-
great.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate the invitation from you to be part of your panel. So thank you.
For sure.
So, with that being said, today we're going to talk about the one-page marketing plan, and we all know that marketing is a necessary evil in our organizations to be able to drive, brand awareness, to use it from a lead generation perspective, and for some, it's a love and hate relationship. Some might have grown up in the technical world and realize that there's all these other hats that need to be worn as the leaders of MSPs. And so, with that being said, I'm going to turn things over to Jennifer. And if, of course, if anybody has questions along the way, please feel free to jump in.
Please.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So I'm
Jen,
going to share my screen in just a second. And if it's okay with Dan, I've got a PDF that I can share with those that are at least on the Zoom call. If you're watching in in YouTube or anywhere else, just reach out to me. I'm happy to share this. But let me back up and explain how this came about. Because this was a 6 or 9 month kind of a labor of love in a wrestling match, much like marketing is for some of you, maybe a little bit of a labor of love, definitely a wrestling match. And I'm a big believer that if I really understand something, then I should be able to teach it. And marketing is something that for most people listening, there's bits of mystery. Like, a lot of us live in a very binary world. Client calls in, there's an issue, they submit a ticket, and then you do a thing, push an update, you reboot, you do whatever, and then you go back and you're like, did that fix the problem? And it's a very binary, it either fixed the problem or it did not fix the problem. It's an immediate feedback mechanism, within minutes, sometimes hours, but it's pretty close to instant that the thing I did either fixed the problem or not. And marketing is not like that. And so that's the reason that marketing feels hard, or there's friction around marketing. And it's because it breaks your normal rule of, there's a problem, I tried to solve it. Is the problem solved or not? Yes or no, in like 90% of your life. Now we insert marketing, and there's like art and there's science and there's, well, did it work or not? We're not really sure. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. So there's this, it's hard to get your sea legs around marketing when it's so contrary to everything else that you live in. So I started taking a look at like, okay, I've been troubleshooting marketing and making marketing recommendations for several decades now. How do I do this? It's kind of like if you ever bring in a brand new technician and you're like, how do I troubleshoot so easily? And you start to try to flow chart it and you're like, it's really hard to flow chart because you probably just do it instinctively now. You don't even have to think about it. But stopping to do that documentation is so valuable to your team. And so I took a second to 6 months, a second to document this. And I want to share it again. Let me hit send on this PDF, and then I am going to share my screen. I'm showing it to you on a spreadsheet so that I can edit it and play with it. And I'm going to zoom in and out because I want you to kind of get the overall picture, and then we'll zoom in to specific areas. So this is what you're going to get. If you didn't get the PDF, just reach out to me. I'll give you the PDF of this. I'll give you the spreadsheet of this. I don't care, whichever version you want. You've probably heard that marketing has to do with know, like, and trust. That is true. That is factual. But in the MSP world, if you're selling services that are a little mysterious to the buyer, or they don't really understand them, or maybe there's some skepticism. Do I really need what you're trying to sell me, or are you just a dishonest salesperson? Know, like, and trust is not enough. You also have to create desire for the thing that you are selling, for your service. So know, like, trust. That is the very most basic part of looking at marketing. Well, the good thing is there are a finite number of ways to create knowledge that you exist. And there's all of these options. Again, I'll share this with you. You don't have to get a screenshot. You can if you want. I don't care. But if nobody knows that you exist, it is because you're not doing one or more of these things. You're not getting out into the community. You don't have an SEO strategy. You're not going to events. You're not speaking. You're not giving away swag. You're hiding under your desk in essence, and that's why people don't know that you exist. And then there's a finite number of tactics that can create like and trust. There's kind of two layers to that, which we'll get into. And then there's a finite number of tactics that you can apply. Oh, hold on. I got rid of my little guy. Okay. Finite number of tactics you can apply to create desire. And so your job is to, number one, evaluate what you're doing right now and decide, what am I doing currently to create awareness that I even exist? And so we called it know, like, and trust. This is also branding and traffic. When you're driving traffic to your website, you're no longer a stranger. When you're branding yourself, perhaps with swag or your podcast, or even paid ads, if you have a paid ad strategy, a lot of those are branding plays. To create like and trust, typically you're going to need to build a list and then nurture that list. And then finally, we need to be making sales invitations. So that is the concept in a nutshell. Once we have this codex built out, it's like a one-page marketing plan. I like you to have one branding and traffic technique, one list building, one list nurture, and one sales invitation. And I call that one by one by one by one. And each of those one things should be creating numbers and metrics, which we have to track. And so I list all of the KPIs. We can dig in and talk about what that is. But once you understand, okay, I'm doing a top of funnel tactic to create branding and awareness that I exist, most of us could come up with, well, how am I going to measure if the awareness of me is growing? Well, it's going to be visitors on your website. It's possibly going to be engagement, eyeballs on your content. The soft one, the reason it's in italics is it's a little harder to measure, it's easier to feel, is awareness. When people start to say, I see you everywhere. Wow, how big is your team? You must have a team of 15. And you're like, nope, we have a team of 3. We're just strategically making sure that people are seeing us and are aware of us. So one by one by one by one, all of which, each of those ones are creating the KPIs we want them to. And if it's not creating the KPI, we've got to go back to the tactic and say, is it doing what I need it to do? So let me pause because that's the overview. I want to get into a few common mistakes that I see. And then inside of the PDF, I'm happy to walk anybody through this. Bring your codex to me and I'll walk you through, and I may spot some gaps, or I may say, you probably have a lead generation problem, don't you? It's because, and I'll immediately be able to see it when it's on this codex. This is how I'm used to looking at and evaluating marketing plans. So Dan, let me tag you in because I can't see this and questions or feedback. So are we
Yeah.
getting questions? Do you want to ask me questions, or do you just want me to blaze a trail?
Yeah, so first off, does anybody right now have any questions that they want to jump in at? Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. I'm easy to talk to, I promise.
And we could always, put somebody in the hot seat. Wouldn't that be fun? We won't do that,
It
but
would be super fun. I want to like look at who the participants are and pick who I want to be in the hot seat. No, I won't do that. What I can do, I want to talk about some common mistakes that I see. And then I want to shift to a typical marketing stack, like what I typically see when clients come to me, and how to solve it. And that may spur some questions as we go through that. So what I see a lot of is a lot of branding and traffic. So I see a lot of top of funnel activity and almost no bottom of funnel activity. And so I will see people, they'll come to me, and they're MSPs that have been in business, let's just say 10 years, give or take a little, and they have a blog. Maybe they have a social media presence. It may be their own content. They may be repurposing content from Tech Tribe or Paul Green or Kaseya Powered Services or whatever, but they've got a social media presence. They have a blog. They've got an SEO strategy, and maybe they're going to events. Well, you can see all of those. They're good options. I'm not saying they're bad options, but what they create is knowledge that you exist. So as I'm working through this, kind of ask yourself, how many top of funnel, how many knowledge building, brand building, awareness building tactics do I have in place? There's nothing wrong with having 4, 5, 6, 7 things in place, but there is a finite number of tactics that you can implement well and keep them going. So it's kind of like spinning plates. Like if you've ever seen like on the old black and white movies, the guy it's usually a guy that's spinning a plate. He gets
yeah.
to 7 plates or 15 plates, and then they all start to wobble a little bit, and he's frantically trying to keep the plates spinning. We all have a cap. Now my capacity might be a little bit different than your capacity, but just because I'm a marketing expert doesn't mean I can spin 800 plates. There is still a maximum number of tactics that I can put in place. And so when you have your maximum, and almost all of them are branding and traffic strategies, then you've got a lot of noise, you've got a lot of complexity, you have some frustration because the metrics may not be what you want, and then you edit one and that impacts the whole system, and now the plates all start getting shaky. But if you don't have anything that's building a list or nurturing a list, or what I often see is no sales offers. Maybe I have a list of 200. Maybe I'm sending them a weekly email, not usually. And then, but I'm not actually making them an offer. And it's like, man, I've got a lot of noise in the marketplace. People are hearing about me. Maybe my list is growing. Maybe I'm touching that list weekly with pertinent and relevant things, but no one's ever saying, hey, I'd like to know what you do, or can you please come to my office and do an assessment for me, or a compliance, I've got a compliance need, or maybe I've got a need in AI. And it's because you're not doing anything to invite them to do business with you. You're not creating a desire for what you have. So, silly analogy, I use this sometimes. I don't care if you have the best chocolate covered cockroaches. If there isn't a way to create desire for chocolate covered cockroaches, all of the know, like, and trust in the world is not going to get anybody to buy your chocolate covered cockroaches. You've got to somehow get people to desire them. So there needs to be a health benefit, or it's going to clear brain fog or something. Like, you got to do a really heavy desire. I have to really want that chocolate covered cockroach before I'm going to ask you about it and then give you my hard-earned money and then eat it. Like, there's a gap between know, like, and trust and desire. And so those are some of the common mistakes that I see with MSPs inside of their marketing system.
Well, there are a couple questions that have come in, and when you take a look at our community, we have a wide range of MSPs that fall into the category that are aspiring, growing, and mature. And I think each of these different categories might look at this plan differently. So, Norm is asking, does the owner need to do this, or does Jennifer, your company, offer that? And then also, Kevin's asking about how a smaller MSP can possibly compete against a huge budget, overall that maybe a larger organization has.
Yeah.
And I think, I think we should tackle that because I think each of those categories are different. So what are some of your initial thoughts in that area?
Yeah. So let's talk about the first one first. Does the owner have to do it? In an ideal world, the owner would not have to pull the levers, but I want the owner to understand this concept and drive the strategy, and then outsource, if you will, the or delegate actually doing the work. So in other
Right.
words, I really like it. I get nervous when an owner says, I don't want to be involved. I just hired a brand new marketing manager. They've got 1 year of experience, and I want them to build out the marketing codex for me. That makes me very uneasy because the marketing codex is such a fundamental, foundational piece of how your business is going to grow or not, that delegating it to someone who's been with your company for 3 weeks, even 3 months, is risky. That would be like bringing on a brand new technician and saying, I want you to completely rip and replace our whole cybersecurity stack.
Right.
That's scary. Like, I
Yeah.
want the owner involved in selecting what are the pieces of the puzzle that we want to put in place. So pick one branding and traffic, one list building. Like, you're going to fill in the blanks, if you will. Look at this like a fill in the blank worksheet. You want one by one by one by one. You tell your marketing manager, your virtual assistant, these are the 4 tactics we are approaching this quarter. This over here, we briefly looked at this. This is how you, the marketing manager, are going to be measured. Number one, the weekly blog has to get posted and it needs to create this KPI. Number two, I want 3 lead magnets on our website. I want them live in 3 weeks. I'm not saying that's the perfect thing, but they have to be live, and then we're going to measure our list nurturing thing. I want to put out a newsletter once a month and a weekly email, and here's how we're going to measure that. But I want the owner to build the strategy, because most of us, probably everyone on the call, almost everyone on this call, cannot afford a strategic thinker. We may be able to find an A player doer, someone who can execute, but as owners, we think strategically at a very different level than most of our team. Now, if you're a more mature organization and you do have like a director or above, or a chief marketing officer, then your situation's a little bit different and you can delegate the strategy. And you're even higher than that. You're just going, hey, maybe let me rubber stamp the strategy that you came up with. But for most of myself included, I create my own strategy and then I outsource to team members or other places the actual doing of the work. Now, what MSP Sales Revolution does, we provide coaching, guidance. I do have a client right now that just brought in a brand new full-time virtual assistant from overseas, and I am helping her put in place the strategy that the client, the owner, the founder created. So the owner and founder created this, filled out the codex, and now I'm helping the assistant. I think her title is marketing assistant. I'm helping the marketing assistant put these things in place.
I want to jump into, the saying that nobody can really sell as good as the owner, the leader of the MSP. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, you could never bring in a salesperson because we know there's many successful MSPs that have entire sales teams. But the key is if you're just starting out and you're bringing somebody on board in a marketing role or in a sales role, in their green, unless they're highly experienced and they've done this before, they're going to be looking to you for support and advice. And so there is that challenge that, if you don't have that experience, then you're going to have that, you're going to be in an awkward position because, they're going to be looking to you to help guide them. They're going to be more doers initially than anything. So, what advice would you give to someone that's looking to bring somebody on, whether it be sales or marketing, and depending on what the experience level is of that person?
Sure. So let me answer this two ways. Number one, I want to say how do we bridge that gap today? Like what should it look like today? And then I want to future cast a little bit with a much bigger business than I think probably any of us have. I want to talk about how Dan Martell, he doesn't use the MSP marketing matrix or the MSP marketing codex, but I want to explain the way that he handles his marketing. And he has sellers. He's a massive company. He sells coaching and consulting services into the SaaS space. There's a lot of the vendors in our space that follow Dan Martell's advice. So since he's built I don't say $20 million company. I don't know exactly. You can probably Google it real quick and find out. But he has a very, very large, successful company that originally started with him doing all the work. And so I want to talk about him as an example. But what it looks like out of the gate is the owner creates the strategy. If you don't have a team, the owner is going to have to pull those levers. So when I first started my company, I didn't have a team. I have a small team today, but I didn't have a big team. Well, that's your constraint. It doesn't matter whether you are a one-person company or a 25-person company. Your organization, think of it like an ecosystem or a like a I just lost the word. I'm sorry. I'm like a week past COVID and words are hard right now. But like there's it's like a big glass box and you put in all your plants and your, maybe a frog or a turtle or something, and then you seal the box and it is
Yeah.
like a self-contained unit.
A
Uh,
terrarium.
Yes, a terrarium. Thank you. Hard word. Couldn't come up with that. So look at your business like a terrarium. And inside of any terrarium or any ecosystem, there is always a constraint. So it doesn't matter if you're a one-person company or a 20-person company, there is a constraint. So as a one-person company, your constraint is probably time. And so when you are building your codex, which just starts to answer the question of how do we compete with larger companies because we don't have their budget, you're going to pick options one by one by one by one that are simple to execute and not super time bound. So let me give you some concrete examples. Podcasting, not super difficult, but it is similar to SEO in that SEO, you probably won't see any results for 6-ish months. Podcasting, you probably won't see any results for 12 to 24 months. And so On the surface, podcasting is not super hard to get set up, especially with AI tools. And maybe you want an intro, outro. If you can force yourself to do minimum viable product, creating a podcast doesn't take a lot of time, but getting results from a podcast takes a lot of time. And you may not have that much time. You may not have that much runway. And so you may say, man, like Jennifer Bleem, I desperately want to have a podcast. I have a great idea for a podcast. I'm not sharing the concept because someone's going to say that's brilliant. I'm stealing it. So I'm not sharing it right now. I desperately want to have a podcast. I have a great idea for a podcast. I would do great with a podcast. I have enough people I could have on my podcast, but I'm not willing to take on a podcast as part of my marketing codex because I know it's going to be an 18 to 24 month commitment. And I don't want to do that yet. And so I have other pieces. I have lead magnets. I speak. And so those are things that I, Jennifer, can do with a very short amount of time. And then the payback time is also short. So when you, the time-strapped entrepreneur business owner, are building your codex, be smart about how you are building your one by one by one by one. By the way, once you have one thing in each category that is actually creating the KPIs and the metrics that you want, you can add a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth. But I can't, I haven't done the math. I should do the math. But if there's seven tactics in each of these, what is somebody nerdy on this call, brainy, mathy, can tell me what 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 is. That's how many iterations of this codex there are. So, I mean, we're probably talking 1,000 different iterations because everybody is going to have a different number of top of funnel activities. And so the way you mix these is going to be unique. I don't know that I've had, I'd have to go back and really analyze it, but I'm not sure I've had any clients that mimic each other exactly. Because even if you just drill this down to digital versus in person, and again, that's simplifying this, but even if we're like digital versus in person, some of you are like, I only want to do digital marketing. That's great. Then do that. Some of you are like, I hate digital marketing. I like humans. Give me all the speaking spots, podcasts, meet and greets, networking events, shaking hands as you possibly can give me, because I like that. So if we just look at it from those two very different lenses, you're each going to build out your codex in a different way because you have different strengths and weaknesses. And so I want you to pick things that are able to be executed and that match your strength.
We did find our nerdy math guy,
Oh, tell
Josh,
me.
2401.
Okay. All right.
There
Thank
we go.
you.
Thank you,
You're
Josh.
welcome.
There's
I love it. It was that, who is that, Josh?
yes.
Awesome. Josh, I owe you one. Appreciate it. I owe
There you
you
go.
2,401, apparently. Dan, can you feed me back that second question? I think it was, how
Yeah.
do we compete with companies with a larger budget?
Yeah. So, how do we compete against those huge dollars and hordes of hungry sales folks that larger MSPs can throw at marketing initiatives? And that's a great question. Absolutely.
It is. It is. So, I'm just going to be super transparent. There are sales coaches in our industry. I'm a sales coach, sales and marketing coach. There are sales and marketing coaches in our industry that are significantly larger than me, but I still get clients. So why is that? Well, we can go to supply and demand. There's enough supply, not, we have enough MSPs that need sales and marketing help. So that's a piece of it. Another piece for my business is that personality is very much at play. Marketing and sales is you need a coach that you can relate to on a personality manner, and some people really really relate to me, and some people really really relate to other coaches, and we're very different from one another, and so personality plays a piece. The other thing, let me just kind of give away, this is not my IP, but it is something I don't see taught a whole lot in the MSP world. Let me stop my share just so you guys get a little bit bigger for me. I'm happy to share my screen again when we go back to that. But it's this concept of a proven process. So if you've never dug into this concept, when you're done watching this live stream, not now because you're going to get distracted, but go to Google and type in proven process and then click on images. So you're doing a Google image search is what you're doing. And that will give you images to express what is a proven process. And what you're doing with a proven process diagram is you are taking something that is just a concept. Managed services is a concept. Managed security is a concept. There's no product. You can't really demo it even. Like you just have to kind of experience it. And by having a proven process, the way you do business, Gary Pica calls this your secret sauce or your chocolate cake recipe.
Right.
That is your proven process. And let me make this less, and let me make it more concrete and less kind of airy fairy. Um, Most business consultants, business coaches teach pretty much the same thing. You want to have a meeting cadence. You want to focus on one big project at a time, whether you call them quarterly rocks or whatever. But how many of you have seen the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System traction? It looks like a Trivial Pursuit playing piece with like eight sections in it. Anybody seen it? Somebody give me a hands up. I can only see a few of you. Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot. I think you were already doing it. Can you see if you can find that
Yeah.
graphic?
Yeah. Let me grab it. 1 second.
And I'm gonna thank you again to Josh because I appreciate you doing it. I'm looking at the comments now. The 2,401. Now I know that number, and that's a
Mhm.
so while Dan is finding that, you could hire a business consultant in your geography, and they will coach you on meeting with your team. What should that cadence look like? When do we meet with our leadership team? I'm trying to think of like all the different concept inside of Traction or EOS. All of the coaches are teaching exactly the same thing.
If
But
are we
what,
talking about this one right
yes,
here?
that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're looking at. So what EOS has done is they've created this six-sided circle. I don't know, six segments in a circle. And this is the EOS operating system. Now, Dan, hold that on the screen for just one more second.
Mhm.
Vision, data, process, getting traction or momentum and getting pulling all the pieces together, having a list of issues. How do you coach your people? Like that makes up the business. Okay, you can put that down. None of you went,
Awesome.
oh,
Awesome
I've
book.
never thought of this before. Maybe I should pour value into my people. Like traction, I love traction. It's right
I see
here.
it.
Like
I
literally,
see it.
it's on the screen. My traction book has all these post-it notes in it and notes in like I love traction. There's nothing wrong with it. But if we take a step back and we're like, what makes traction different from Rockefeller habits? What makes them different from Joe, the business coach in your community or your networking group? At its core, nothing. But one of the things that Traction has done really well is created their company way, their chocolate cake. And so Dan just showed that graphic. Thank you for running to get that. All throughout their book, they have frameworks and systems and documentation that are graphical, and it shows what makes Traction different from everyone else. They have frameworks and pretty pictures. I would bet that almost all of you have a way of doing business. Maybe you don't have a graphical way to illustrate it, but you could put it into ChatGPT and say, tell me, give me an idea how I can, artistically represent this. Because maybe it's a figure eight, like a racetrack kind of a thing. We start with onboarding, and then we get everybody on board and we get everything cleaned up. And somewhere along the way, we do a security assessment. Somewhere along the way, we do a quarterly business review, and then we just rinse and repeat that over and over and over again, right? It's a figure eight. I don't know what yours is, but you have a secret sauce. You have a way that you deliver service. What you need is a way to articulate it and show how you're different. So
And yeah, there, and then there's another one, Get a Grip, which I think you have that one too, right?
do right next to
Yeah.
it. It's an older version, I think. It's a
Yeah.
hardback.
Yeah.
And
And
same thing, I've got post-it notes and it's not quite as marked up as the other one. And one of them is like a story of how a company, I don't remember which one of them is a story about how a company used the methodology, and then the other book is more what is the methodology. So
yeah,
either one are they're both great reads.
very good reads. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple other questions, but I do want to bring in a question that I think is important when we take a look at reaching out to our existing client base versus new prospects that have not done any business with us. Because I think we've, I mean, there is some, question here that if you're not doing regular TBRs, QBRs, whatever we want to call them, then you're not getting those regular touches, identifying what the client's needs are, to be able to make sure they understand what your true capabilities are and what all the products and services you offer. Because let's raise our hand, who's had someone come in and, reach out to you and say, hey, we have a new VoIP system that's going to be coming up to be installed. And so I'm going to have so and so reach out to you. And you're like, wait a minute. You do know we offer VoIP solutions, right? And so we've missed the boat from a couple perspectives. One, we haven't marketed to them to make sure they understand everything that we have to offer. But also during those QBRs, we haven't had those conversations about what are their long-term needs, what are their challenges, their bottlenecks. Um, the thing that we've always said is if it relates to technology in any way, shape, or form, reach out to us. It doesn't matter if it's you're looking to put a LCD display, up on the back wall that has some KPIs on it, any kind of dashboard, talk to us. But we also have to talk to them, right?
Yes, yes. And I listen, we all know like it's easier to sell your existing clients something as opposed to getting a net new sale, a new person having to onboard that company and all of that. But yes, QBRs are so important, or QBRs or TBRs, or what a few of my clients are shifting to more of like the going back to the lunch and learn concept where once a month or once a quarter, you invite your clients in to teach them something. Now, there's no reason you can't invite your clients and some non-clients. Oh, I love it. Love it. Jack was just holding up either Traction or EOS as well. I love it. Traction. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Fantastic. So yes,
Just,
you're, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I was just say, Jackie, just don't be driving and reading at the same time. Just.
Yes, very true, very true. Yeah, those books are not easy ones to read on Audible. You kind of need the physical book to mark up and
Yeah,
whatever. Jack is like dancing. I like it. I like Jack. Okay, so yes, having that relationship with your clients, having that conversation is so important. That's another piece of the puzzle that when you go from solo operator to adding technicians, how do you still maintain that relationship with your clients? That's definitely worthwhile thinking through and starting to operationalize.
absolutely. So we do have another question here. Question from Norm. How important is it to develop or select a niche?
Okay, so I'm going to give you Jennifer's answer. Dan might have a different answer. This is kind of those like, how long is a piece of string? And there's going to be a million different answers. So here's my answer. I know why a lot of coaches recommend picking a niche. I do not. I don't like, I don't have a problem when my clients come to me and they've picked a niche. That's fine. They've made a business decision. I can support that. I know how to market to a niche. Niches make me nervous in part because of real life experience. My husband has an MSP. I used to help him run it before I shifted to the dark side, the vendor side. And he had two, two of the largest oral surgeons in the Washington, D.C. area as clients. They happen to be twin brothers. They both went into oral surgery, set up separate practices. They both were using my husband's MSP. And so he made the very wise decision, like, well, I've got the two poster children of this industry as clients. I'm going to go all in. And he learned the software, he developed relationships with the software, and we were months away from pulling a trigger on a massive campaign and redoing our website and going all in. Like, all we do is serve oral surgeons. Maybe if someone comes to me, we might service them anyway. But we all of our marketing dollars and effort and energy would be towards the oral surgeon market. And just as we were about to go that direction, one of the big hardware vendors, they do like 3D X-rays, and the 3D X-ray requires software to run the X-ray machine. That massive manufacturer, I want to say it was like Kodak or something, like we can't compete with Kodak, started including managed services for free.
Mhm.
Mm,
And that isn't something we could compete with. Like even $1 per endpoint per month, which would have been ridiculously not profitable. We couldn't compete with that. So at the time, we ended up over the course of a year or two, we lost both of those two clients. I don't blame them. It was a business decision. They loved us. And maybe it was Henry Schein, could have been Henry Schein. This was probably eight to 10 years ago. And we were like, good thing we didn't niche down because we would have lost our entire business. I
yeah.
also saw MSPs lose their entire business during COVID. They had niched to hospitality. Overnight, hospitality dried up and their entire business dried up. I know another MSP who went all in on oil and gas, and the oil and gas industry imploded, not literally, but figuratively. And overnight, his whole business was gone. I mean, he had built, I want to say it was a $3 million business very quickly because he understood the oil and gas industry, and inside of 2 months it was gone.
Yeah.
So I that just makes me really uneasy. Now, if you've niched down, I'm not trying to scare you, good on you. Like, it's a valid business strategy. I just wouldn't direct anyone there because it just makes me uneasy. We've got all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, there is a question Jason has, but I want to jump in and just give my thoughts on this. Is I my feelings are very similar to yours, Jennifer, from that perspective. I do think that that doesn't mean that we can't pick a specialty, maybe among maybe a large group of clients that we have. So, we've in our business have had many CPA firms, or we've had many school systems. And so there is an advantage to maybe specializing. And what I mean by that is to maybe just leverage the number of clients that you have. So if you have 10, 15, CPAs that you work for, as you're out there marketing, you can tout that and say, we have a large client base that are, in the accounting, finance area. And so we take a lot of pride in that. I mean, we all know that we can service, any of our clients. There are some people that will ask, hey, gosh, maybe I should be, looking at a MSP that specializes, or that's what their niche is. But putting all of your eggs in one basket can be very risky, just like, having a very, very large client that accounts for a significant portion of your revenue can really tank the business if they were to leave.
Right.
And so that can be a difficult thing. But I'd like to just leverage, when take a look at all of your customer base. I mean, if you have like a couple different industries where you have a large amount of clients, tout that, to prospects. So Jason's question, and I almost view this really kind of as a comment, but can you pick a niche based on more specific marketing message and hit that for a while, and then pick a different niche and do the same thing? I think absolutely. Jennifer, I'll let you jump in there.
Yeah, so you definitely can. So what I will sometimes see where MSPs don't want to pick a single niche, maybe they've picked compliance, or that type of thing. But if you've picked multiple niches or niches, you can perhaps market to one niche every quarter. So maybe you would not market to your accountants in Q1 or Q2 because they're frantically doing taxes, but you might market to them in Q3 And the marketing message could be, we'll get you up and running by January 1 and everything's smooth sailing. We'll get the other company offboarded, us onboarded so that you can hit the ground running in January and get up to speed on the new tax laws and no bumps or bruises during your busy season. So there's nothing wrong with having, let's just say, four niches in your marketing to
Yeah.
this one in Q1, this one in Q2. Just understand, if we're going back to the know, like, and trust, you're having to create a list for four niches. You're having to warm that list up and keep that list warm. But I don't really want to make an offer to the accountants right now because it's Q2 and they're not going to make a buying decision. So you're adding complexity. So you can add that complexity depending on the size of your organization, but just recognize that you're making it more complex. That you may want to do that.
Yeah.
There may be a strategic reason that you want to do that. Just make that decision purposefully, not accidentally.
And also look at your market. I mean, if you're in a smaller market, and if you were to, focus on a niche, can that niche support your business, right? Because just because you specialize in maybe CPAs doesn't mean every CPA is going to start doing business with you.
Yes.
So that's a challenge. And also, I mean, if you do want to specialize in a niche, maybe, I mean, the key is we're all taking, we're all taking, I don't want to say any business that comes in because we got to pick the right clients, but
Mhm.
we're taking businesses that come in from really any industry. And we still have to be selective as far as who's a fit for us and who's a fit for them. So that's critical. But as you've grown your business, so if you've been in business for 10 years, 15 years, or whatever the case may be, you're going to have a wide range of industries, and that's a great time. I mean, if you're starting out and you're newer and you're going to only focus on a niche, I mean, I think it can be very challenging because
Yes.
ultimately you need the money coming in, you need the revenue coming in. And again, same thing is if there are, let's say 50 CPA firms in your community, well, not every one of those are going to do business with you. Not every one of them are going to be a fit for you or you're a fit for them. So as you dwindle down and dwindle down and dwindle down, then you take a look at what is my, prospective, number of businesses that I could target, and it just might not be sustainable for you.
Right. Yeah, and so I want to go kind of a full circle moment, and I want to refresh people's memory on what I said at the beginning, especially if you were just a couple of minutes late. Look at how many of these questions presume that there is a right answer. You're looking for the
Yeah.
binary, and I get it. Like, I wish there were like really clear cut binary answers. You're hearing Dan and I kind of say, well, it depends. And so you need to look at marketing as almost like a high school science project. Like, we have a hypothesis. It's based on an educated guess, based on our knowledge of marketing fundamentals. And we're going to go all in testing that hypothesis for anywhere from a quarter to a year. And at the end of that time period, we are going to check our ego at the door and we're going to say, was my hypothesis right or wrong? And we're going to make a change. Maybe we're not going to make a change. Maybe our hypothesis was perfect. But we all want like black and white answers, but sometimes it's, let's test it. Let's throw
Yeah.
caution to the wind. Let's stop looking for the right answer and just go all in. So just transparently, when I first started my company, some of you have read my book, and in the book, it's like I work with MSPs that have $60,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue and up. And I did that strategically because I knew I could get results for companies who had $60,000 in monthly recurring revenue and up. Some of that is because I know we can't get results inside of 12 and a half seconds. So I need you to have a little bit of financial runway. But what happened is I started having smaller companies come to me, and I only had one offer for $60,000 and up companies. And I went to one of my coaches and I'm like, all right, I looked at my data. So let's pause for a second. I had data to look at. And I'm like, over the course of the last 12 weeks, I turned away X number of clients who wanted to do business with me, but they couldn't afford $2,500 a month. And she said, well, why don't you have a smaller offer? And I'm like, because I know I can give the results at 2,500 a month. And she's like, so all you have to do is figure out how to scale your offer down to be smaller and still get people the results that they want. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And she's like, well, that's your quest. And inside of 2 days, I had cleared my whiteboard and figured out how do I come up with a $750 a month offer that still helps my clients get what they want. And so, do I have marketing out there that says I only work with $60,000 and up companies? Yep, because once you publish a book, it's a pain in the rear to go back and edit it. So that's still out there. I had a client that came on board with me last week, and he's like, I've been working really hard. I just closed a client. I'm at 60K. Can I work with you? And I'm like, yes. And I didn't tell him you probably could have worked with me a year ago because he had a piece of marketing in his hand that painted what my ideal client was 3 years ago. So my point in telling you that is that my hypothesis was valid, but my reality changed. I'm like, I now have something that I can offer to the smaller companies. And so you're not married to your decision any longer than that 90 days to a year to prove the hypothesis. While you're proving the hypothesis, stay the course, but then go back and evaluate the data and say, did I prove or disprove my hypothesis? Now I'm smarter. I have more data. I know more things. The economy has changed. My offering has changed. Now I have a proven process, whatever it might be willing to change, but stay the course long enough to prove or disprove your hypothesis.
Now, throughout too, for sake of sounding like the old man that says the same stories over and over, another great book, Rules for Revolutionaries by Guy Kawasaki. This is an older book. I love it. Guy Kawasaki was a evangelist for Apple. And one of the things, so like the title here is Command Like a God, Command Like a King, Work Like a Slave. But one of the key phrases that he talks about is don't worry, be crappy. And if you work to make it, if you're trying to do something and you're like, I need to, commit to a sales and marketing program, but I don't have it right. Well, you'll never get there. The road to, tomorrow leads to nowhere, So unless you're executing today, and don't worry, be crappy doesn't mean throw something that's crappy out there. What it means is put something out there and work to improve it as you go along. Because if you wait for it to be perfect, your competition will surpass you. And I love that phrase. I say it over and again, over and over again. I've probably said it a million times on this call, and but I truly believe that. Mike, I see you came off of Mike. I wanted to give you an opportunity to
Yeah,
jump in there.
wasn't that caption or phrase in his book, The Art of Innovation? Or is it in that one?
It's in this one. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay. Because
page.
I haven't read that one, but I read The Art of Innovation, and I thought it was in that one.
Yeah. So it's under Command Like a God. So we can. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the second one, page 23. Don't worry, be crappy. But he might reference it in that other book as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love his content. And so we're getting up to the end of our time here. And I think we've covered all of our questions. So as we are wrapping things up, Jennifer, any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience?
So I love your don't worry, be crappy. I think most of us on this call are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists. And so we want to only put brilliance out into the marketplace. I feel that. I am that. I'm very much a recovering perfectionist. But you do have to start somewhere. And it creating, going back to like creating a one-page marketing plan, if it's not your natural language or natural bent to create a marketing plan, it's going to be crappy to start. It's going to feel messy. It's going to be sticky. You're going to go to your website and be like, oh, we changed our messaging and we picked a niche, but we've missed this page on our website. That is the nature of marketing. It never ends because you're always iterating and you're finding things to fix. You might find broken tech, and that's okay. Sometimes the quest for perfection stops you from just starting. And listen, I feel it intimately. I had a client who left and they shared a comment on a forum about how bumpy my onboarding process was. And it really hurt my feelings because I thought my onboarding process was fabulous. And then I asked somebody else to take a look at it and they're like, yeah, we think it only makes sense to Jennifer. And I'm like, okay, my onboarding process was crappy. I guess we better fix that. Welcome to being a business owner. Like there's always
Yeah.
something crappy to fix. Like it just and again, we're not saying put crap out there, but at the same time, we're saying put something out there, even if it's messy and imperfect, and you have imposter syndrome because you don't have as big of a budget as you want, and you're the only owner founder doing all the things and juggling all the things, and oops, you fell off fell off the wagon and you haven't marketed in a quarter. Get back on, get back on, start today. And so if I leave you with anything, it's don't be afraid to fail because in those failures are fabulous lessons. Step back and go, why did I make this mistake? Why did X campaign fail miserably? And if you want help, if you want like an outside person, I'm happy to get on the phone with anyone. I like talking marketing. I know that makes me weird, but I love this industry. I love talking marketing and it's very easy for me. So don't feel like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to bother her. It's not a bother. Like I love talking about this stuff.
And I'll just add to that too, just an analogy is, whether it's our own children or others that we give advice to, for those that might maybe graduating from high school and they're thinking about college and they're like, oh, I don't know about, 4 more years of school. Sometimes they'll say, I'm going to take a year off, and then a year, then they take a second year off and a third year off and a fourth year off. And all of a sudden you're like, man, those 4 years that you didn't go to school flew by. But if you had been in school, after 4 years, you have that degree. Same thing with our marketing strategies. Just start it today, little by little, because a year's going to go by, and if you've done nothing, you've got nothing. If you've done something, it's going to build upon it each day, and you're going to get something out of it. So,
Well
with that
said.
being said, Jennifer, as always, you are a rock star, and we greatly appreciate it. I did throw Jennifer's LinkedIn link there, and so feel free to connect with Jennifer. And with that being said, thank you everybody for being here today and have a great rest.